This is Hino's Sport, bringing you that heat and that fire. I keeps the foot on the what? On the necks. I keeps the foot on the what? On the necks. And like the Tibetan Mastiff that I am, I apply what? Unlimited pressure. Because pressure does what? It bursts pipes. Anytime y'all hear people saying keeps the foot on the necks, you guys know where it come from, man. I keep telling y'all, man, y'all need to tell people, hey, if y'all saying Hino's Sport saying, y'all need to give Hino's Sport credibility for saying his saying. Because I'm seeing a whole bunch of foot on the necks, you know what I'm saying, foot on the necks gangs, you know what I'm saying, foot on the necks, keep the foot on the necks. I'm the one that said that, man. I'm the one that made this thing popular, and you guys know that. All you got to do is look at my catalog. No one says it like me. It doesn't have the same level of and oomph when I say it. I keeps the foot on the what? On the necks. I keeps the foot on the what? On the necks. When I say it, it gives people animation. It gives people something for them to feel power behind it. Something for them to feel exuberation behind it. Something for them to feel something that's like it's a oomph. Because I'm telling you guys, I'm keeping the foot on the what? On the necks. I'm keeping the foot on the what? On the necks. So again, when you guys hear this terminology, make sure folks are putting respect on Hino's Sport's name, because this is Hino's Sport's terminology. So I have to put that in preference, that. And I had to say that. Now on to the video, man. Now let's talk about this, because I think this is very important to talk about. Bottom line is this. We have to sit here, and as fight fans, we have to look at Vasiliy Lomachenko, and we have to look at Teofimo Lopez. Now, I know a lot of people are getting behind Teofimo Lopez, and they think the super duper hype job is going to get the job done. Let me tell you guys something. He's talking a good game again. He supposedly has his swag back. He's saying that, oh, I saw the punch that Richard Comey threw when he threw it, you know what I'm saying, and I just knew how to make the right adjustment, and I had something to go behind that. Where was that confidence prior to the fight? Because prior to the fight, he was all like, you know, I have to be focused. I have to make sure that I do all of the necessary prerequisites to make sure that, you know, I take my opponent seriously. Now, all of a sudden, he was able to figure him out. Come on. That's not keeping that same energy, dog. Let me say it again. It's not keeping that same energy. So how can we sit here and tell ourselves that Teofimo Lopez has figured it out? I don't believe he has. Because once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. Let me say it again. Once a super duper hype job, always a super duper hype job. What has he learned? We will find that out in the fight against Vasiliy Lomachenko. That fight is going to let us know where his mindset is at, and it's going to let us know where he's at as a fighter. And I believe that Loma's going to expose him. I'm not the biggest Lomachenko fan. A lot of people know this if you've been following the channel. Loma gets touched up too damn much. His eyes look like they got out of a meat pack. Let me say it again. His eyes look like they've got out of meat pack district because of him getting hit. But one thing that I can say about him is he's been in bigger fights than Teofimo Lopez. Under the bright lights, although he has suffered against the Linareses of the world, the Pedrazas of the world, the Salidos of the world, you know what I'm saying, the Luke Campbells of the world, 3 out of 4 of those fights he prevailed. That's a 75% percentage in pressurized situations. What we've seen from Teofimo Lopez in pressurized situations, that he's 1 for 1. The Masayoshi Nakatani fight, yeah, they said he won on paper, but he really lost that fight emotionally. He lost it mentally because he checked out as a fighter. And the fight against Richard Comey, he clearly won that fight. But Richard Comey was outboxing him in the first round. And in the second round, that's when, you know, Richard Comey fell into gambling trades that just didn't make no sense. And he got exposed for that. And we got to call a spade here. So the truth of the fact of the matter is this. We have to look at the underlying truths, and we have to look at the underlying evidence that's associated with this bout. And what we see here is Vasiliy Lomachenko should win the fight because of the fact that Vasiliy Lomachenko is the more experienced fighter in the bright lights. Experience means something under the bright lights. Teofimo Lopez has not proven himself under the bright lights. And don't tell me Richard Comey, because if your biggest fight to date is Richard Comey, then you got some things that you got to work on. Because when you look at Richard Comey and that catalog with Masayoshi Nakatani, which is nowhere near the likes of Guillermo Rigondeaux or a Nicholas Walters, or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on. Orlando Salido and his experience, Jose Pedraza at that time, prior to him, you know, getting flatlined by Gervonta Tank Davis. That period of time, Jose Pedraza was nothing to play with because he KO'd Tevin Farmar. He beat the life out of Loma, even though Loma won that fight. And then he got KO'd by Gervonta Tank Davis, and that's when we knew Gervonta Tank Davis was on a whole nother level when it came to this equation. But nevertheless, Loma's been through these types of fights. So something has to be said for the level of experience that he's going through and the law of attrition that he's going through in these fights. And we're not going to sit here and act like the style that Teofimo Lopez brings to the table, Loma has not seen this before. Now, does Loma need to be careful of Teofimo Lopez's power and what he's bringing in terms of how he's throwing his punch combinations and his accelerations, etc., etc.? Yes, he needs to be careful of that. He needs to be mindful of that. And he needs to be aware of that and make sure he doesn't get caught with anything they shouldn't get caught with. But the truth of the fact of the matter is this, and we have to call a spade here, man. We got to keep that thing real. We got to keep it a buck. And we just have to be cold-hearted, unadulterated, and cutthroat with the truth-telling in terms of how we break this thing down. And in breaking it down, we have to tell ourselves, who has the underlying advantage in this fight? It's Vasiliy Lomachenko. Because he checks more of the markers than Teofimo Lopez. And if you can't tell yourself this as a fighter, as a fight fan, then something's fundamentally wrong with you. And again, Vasiliy Lomachenko is not my favorite fighter. Anyone that's been following the platform knows this. But I gotta call a spade here, and I gotta keep that same energy, dog. Let me say it again. I gotta keep that same energy. This is a guy, even though Guillermo Rigondeaux went up 2 weight classes, he made him quit. And we got to give him credit for that. Because that's on his resume. What does Teofimo Lopez have on his resume to say that he made a fighter quit? Don't give me bum bashes. Don't give me low-level competition. And again, if his best fame to claim is Richard Comey, then he's in a world of trouble against Vasiliy Lomachenko. And if we are really asking ourselves a fundamental boxing question, we need to ask ourselves an even bigger question. How does this fight play out? Well, it plays out with Teofimo Lopez getting a boxing lesson. And there's nothing wrong with that. Does he have the potential to hurt Vasiliy Lomachenko? Yes, the potential is there. Can he potentially hurt him? Yes, because Teofimo Lopez has power. But Teofimo Lopez is going to be doing this in the variation of him gambling. And you can't do that against an experienced boxer with the likes of a Vasiliy Lomachenko. So again, now we have to ask ourselves the underlying question. Who has the experience factor? Who has performed better under the bright lights, and who has handled pressure better? And if you can't fundamentally tell yourself or draw to the conclusion that it is Vasiliy Lomachenko, then you're being a Rudy Poo and a Plum Plum brain. You're being a classic Doda and a Trogodak. You're being an ultra fanboy with the ultra fanboy rhetoric. Because if we're being real with ourselves, right? The truth hurts, but it will what? It will set you free. And we're giving ourselves cold-hearted, unadulterated, cutthroat truths. The truth of the fact of the matter is, Vasiliy Lomachenko checks off more of the markers than Teofimo Lopez. That in of itself tells you how that fight plays out, regardless of anybody's affinity to any fighter. That's the truth of the fact of the matter. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. I keeps the foot on the what? On the next. This is Hino's Sport. Checking out.